We've only got 2 weeks left in the NFL regular season, which means when it comes to mock drafts, you're getting a lot closer to reality when it comes to draft orders. Therefore, felt like perfect timing to give you an updated 2024 mock draft. Yeah, let's do this. Now, I know I've talked ad nauseum over the past couple of months about the Chicago Bears and what they should do from a draft standpoint come next April. And I'm going to talk for a moment about it again here, but there are other teams I certainly want to talk about, right? I keep coming back to this. The number one overall pick is a glorious commodity to have. So incredibly valuable in a variety of different ways. You can get a franchise-changing player. You can get a franchise-changing draft pick capital package. And the Bears did that last year, right? I don't know how much franchise-changing it's been, but certainly like the Bears got their money's worth out of peeling back from one with the Carolina Panthers so they could, for some inexplicable reason, draft Bryce Young. Now, that said, the Bears find themselves in this spot a second time. Have to imagine it's going to be incredibly hard to pass on a quarterback again. Last year was one thing because you could say, hey, let's take another year with Justin Fields, see what you got. Give him another season, put a little more help around him, see what he is. But to me, you should have seen enough to see plenty to know what he is, but it's hard to know what the Bears are thinking right now. They could sit there and mortgage that pick off to the highest bidder. They absolutely could. And get an even bigger haul potentially than they got last time around for the Bryce Young deal. But again, if the Bears general manager Ryan Poles falls in love with the Caleb Williams or a Drake Maye, maybe a McCarthy, who the hell knows, it's going to be really, 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 really hard for a general manager that didn't draft Justin Fields to pass on drafting another quarterback so he could run it back with Justin Fields in 2024. It's just my opinion. Now, in this scenario, I've got the Bears taking Caleb Williams, number one overall. And you've seen a lot of comparisons in recent months between like Caleb Williams and Drake Maye, the presumed top two quarterbacks in this draft. I don't know at this point if I look at them as the top two quarterbacks, 1-2, 2-1 in this draft. I'm a few weeks away from making those calls. But here's what I'll say. I think the Williams versus Maye debate will come down to this as much as anything else. Whether a team values the ability to execute better within structure or whether a team values the improvisation and the playmaking outside of structure. It's not to say that Caleb Williams can't execute within structure. I just see Drake Maye being better at it. It's not to say that Drake Maye can't improvise and can't, make things happen outside of structure. It's just clear how much better Caleb Williams is at it. Like my very early impressions of both guys is when you watch Caleb Williams, overall the quarterback he reminds you the most of is probably Russell Wilson. Drake Maye, I keep seeing like Jordan Love, maybe Trevor Lawrence. Those are the guys that I'm seeing. So we'll see with the Bears. But in this scenario, I've got them taking a quarterback at 1. And then coming back around at pick 8, they get lucky because 4 quarterbacks go in the first 7 picks, which is maybe not 100% likely at this point, but it's certainly possible. You got so many quarterback desperate teams, right? Got them being able to take Malik Nabers at 8. Then you start to feel good about things saying, hey, they drafted a young quarterback that kind of reset the clock. But if they retain Eberflus and that coaching staff, then no, absolutely not. You don't draft the quarterback. You have to get the coach. I prefer the general manager, the coach, and the quarterback to be all on the same timeline to all be aligned, but whatever. But Williams and Nabers, I think a lot of Bears fans would be really, really happy if that was the outcome of the draft. But as much talk as there's been about the Bears and how close they are to the Carolina Panthers clinching the worst record in the league, meaning the Bears get the top pick of the draft, the team that sits at number 2 right now, the Arizona Cardinals, is every bit as intriguing. You've got Kyler Murray's about to start that massively bad contract extension. They could, in theory, get out from under it this year If they trade him, make it like a post-June 1st designation, and then like I think it's $18 million in dead cap would apply in 2024 and $33 million in 2025. It's something like that. So it's not inconceivable, but there are options here for the Cardinals. What do? Do they auction the second pick off to the highest bidder? Do they sit there and take somebody like a Marvin Harrison Jr. and say, my God, we need somebody on this offense around Kyler Murray? Or do they potentially try to replace Kyler Murray? And to all the things of, if you're saying, well, Jonathan Gannon's saying that they're going to roll with Kyler Murray. They might, right? But you're still months away from the draft, months away from when you actually have to make that decision. Shit can change. I would not dismiss right now the possibility of the Cardinals drafting a quarterback and trying to trade off Kyler Murray, and somebody would be willing to trade for Kyler Murray. A team like the Raiders potentially might say, hey, we don't have anybody at this spot. It ain't Aiden O'Connell, that's for damn sure. And they're not going to be in a draft position to potentially get one of the top prospects. They might be a team that would come calling, just like maybe an Atlanta Falcons would be a team that would come calling for a guy like Kyler Murray. Again, stranger shit has happened. For the Commanders right now, though, they're at pick 3. The pick has to be a quarterback. When you're in a place where you're benching Sam Howell for Jacoby Brissett, you predictably have reached the outcome I assumed they were going to, that Sam Howell wasn't going to be the guy. Now, to at least say they gave him the season to show, and he put up a lot of yards, but he's not the guy. And I'm sure Commanders fans are like, yeah, it'd be great to have a quarterback and just get rid of Ron Rivera at this point. I understand. He's a dumb dick. He needs to go. But for the Commanders, if you're picking 3rd, that pick has to be a quarterback. It has to be. You cannot go the veteran route, the trade route. You cannot go the we're going to run it back with Sam Howell route. All of that is dumb. If you're picking at 3, you have to pick quarterback. Point blank, period. And then the Patriots at 4. Leave it to them. Thankfully for them, they won, for me at least, Bears fans. The Patriots beat the Broncos the other night. So they're screwing up their own draft position. But hey, in this case, I've got them taking J.J. McCarthy, and I wonder how much of the real downturn that is. But, whether Belichick stays or Belichick goes, especially if Belichick goes, they're going quarterback. I would think even if Belichick somehow miraculously stays in New England, he has to go quarterback. Bailey Zappe's not the guy. He ruined Mac Jones. You got to reset the clock at quarterback again. What struck me when I was first doing this mock draft, I was like, man, there's going to be a lot of offensive players go with the top 10, 12 picks. And yeah, that's true, right? I've got 8 of the first 10 picks are offensive players, and the 2 defensive players are both edge rushers. And, I would expect you're going to see 4 or 5 edge rushers taken in the top 20, 2 of those probably taken in the top 10 to 12. But this is an offense draft, especially high, especially early, especially in round 1. If you're looking at this and you're saying, you've got the Giants taking a quarterback, can you really trust Danny Dimes long term? Really? You want to risk that? You want to run it back with that? Because you got to know Tyrod Taylor ain't the answer. You got to know Tommy DeVito was a 3rd stringer for a fucking reason. And you cannot put faith in Danny Dimes is going to somehow magically stay healthy next year and play a whole hell of a lot better than he ever has. So I do think it is reasonable right now, looking at the way the draft board could shake out, that you would have 4 quarterbacks going in the top 7 picks. I really do. In terms of other things, like Minnesota, sitting there at 15, it could be Penix, it could be Bo Nix. They could be interested in moving up big for a quarterback. I'd be surprised if they don't come out of this draft with a quarterback in round 1. Maybe they'll do it in round 2, but they got to do it early. Same thing still applies to me. I've been talking about for a while. Wide receiver class is great. Offensive tackle class, especially early in this draft, looks to be outstanding. Edge rusher class, especially at the top of the draft, looks to be pretty good. I'm not so sure about the depth after it. But in general, if you're looking for offensive help in this draft, you want to be in round 1. If you're looking for defensive help, it could be one of those drafts where if you're on the other side of the fence, you could really benefit because better defensive talent is going to drop down to you. And sometimes that happens, right? It also could mean that better defensive talent will be available on day 2 and even into day 3. So But anyways, you guys tell me, if you're the Cardinals, what would you do? If you were the Commanders, what would you do? If you're the Bears, what would you do? And what about a team like the Falcons? What about a team like the Raiders? They have to know they don't have the quarterback answer. And they've won, at this point, too many games to put themselves in a position to get the guy with the answer. Do you sit there and sell out and trade the farm to go up and get one of these young quarterbacks? What do you do? Do you make a trade for Kyler Murray? What do you do? Do you sit there and go cry in the corner and say life is going to suck and continue to suck for an indisputable, indefined period of time? Probably. So anyways, you can check out my mock. Criticize it all you want. It's in the description box below. I'm out.